The stream is live and being recorded. Oh, I didn't mean to stop that. I meant to turn off the sound. Interesting. Interesting. So welcome. It is Friday morning. A good morning. A good Friday, May 4th. This is the morning wake up rundown. Topic of this morning is a champion that I've always felt is overpowered. And I think it might surprise a number of you. A champion that was certainly overpowered. Oh, am I listening to myself? Beg my pardon, that was unintentional. Let us close down this. It is live and being recorded. Oh, I didn't. I sound a little bit silly. I do sound a little bit silly. Okay, but a champion that's always been overpowered, a really good and interesting and fun champion to play even still today, and who is still overpowered in some respects. Who is this fine creature? Who is this champion that I speak of? It is none other than the Twitch, the rat that most people don't even like playing, and think is underpowered, and have always thought is underpowered. It's kind of been interesting because throughout my time in League of Legends, he has been a very underappreciated AD carry because people are like, okay, well, I'm invisible. I can roam around the map. I'm going to rely on my invisibility. And then they get frustrated when they get caught out because someone buys an Oracle, someone buys a Pink Ward, they don't know that it's there, so on and so forth. But I think Dan Din kind of championed Twitch, and back in the day, Twitch was just incredibly powerful for the longest time, but no one even played him. And even today, he is very, very strong. But people just don't give him the credit that he deserves. Now, granted, his attack range was pretty short, but he's gotten a little bit of a bonus to it. But we see a couple people playing him in top lane. Rincent, Rambo X Style are the two high elo players that come to mind, and they beat a ton of matches up top. And you're like, oh, well, why does Twitch beat people up top? Well, one, he has the invisibility, which helps him escape from ganks really well. But two, he has really, really, really good one-on-one fights at levels 1, 2, 3, 4. You can beat a lot of bruisers during those levels, and those are levels that are generally dominated by bruisers. The other thing is Twitch can beat AD carries in those levels too. There's very few that can stand up to him. Graves is probably one. But, he gets a 30% attack speed if he uses Q properly at level 1, and he also receives Expunge at level 2, or, you can swap that around as well. And Expunge has, deals a surprising amount of damage. As you get later into the game, too, he has great teamfight presence. He has an AoE slow, obviously an AoE ultimate, an AoE, damage from Expunge if he lands those attacks on multiple people. Granted, it takes some, positioning, but all AD carries take some positioning. All AD carries require, a front line of tanks and support. What makes him overpowered then? What makes him so strong? Why do I go out on a limb and say, oh, this guy is actually overpowered? Well, it's his invisibility, obviously. I have seen, actually in 2 consecutive games, I was playing against Rambo X Style, who was one of the Twitch players that plays up top. In one game, I was going against him as Lulu. In another game, there was a separate Lee Sin up top, and I was jungling. Now, in each game, he essentially went 0-3. I'm pretty sure he went 0-3. Didn't get any sort of farm. But what happened is, once he started roaming, people just started dying. And even when they knew he was in their lane, I would continuously ping. I'd be like, Twitch is just waiting in your lane. People, especially at high elo, really want all those CS, and they would just be a little bit too greedy getting those CS, and they don't realize, hey, Twitch can be right behind you, can slow you down pretty significantly, and outputs a ton of damage. So, so my teammates kept on dying, despite the fact that Twitch, they knew Twitch could engage on them, and I was trying to do everything in my power to really stop this, and we had good counters to Twitch. In my game, it was Lulu, and of course E gives vision on him. In the other game, it was Lee Sin, and Lee Sin's E also gives vision on Twitch. So Twitch was at a disadvantage in both games, and did lose in the laning phase. But once he started roaming around, even though people knew he was roaming around, even though they knew he was middle, they would just go out a little bit too far, and with a little bit of help from Twitch, the other AP middle is going to be able to kill your AP middle. It's, as easy as that. And whenever you're at a number disadvantage, Twitch gives you a really great initiating opportunity. And you're like, oh, that's really weird, an AD carry with initiating opportunity. Well, he can slow you down from really good range. And then at that point, you're like, okay, well, do I attack him or do I run? Well, if you're at a numbers disadvantage, you have to run, but potentially he can catch up to you, has teammates that can also catch up to you now that you're slowed. And suddenly, whereas if you're at a numbers disadvantage and you see the enemy team running at you, if they get within, 1200 range of you, you see them, you're like, oh, we better back off. We have the numbers disadvantage. Well, suddenly, if you have a Twitch that appears up like right behind you or right in the middle of you, slows you pretty significantly. And let's take a look at actually how strong that slow is. Then you can't suddenly get away from the rest of the team that is, coming down upon you, prepared to initiate. So at any given point, Twitch gives you that ability to have that extra man. And even at really high elo, people are just like, well, I'm not really paying attention to that Twitch. And so, obviously, at lower elos, I suspect they pay even less attention, and it just makes him incredibly viable and makes him scale really well, and it helps that he can go in the jungle, go top lane, and go bottom lane. So debilitating poison, the duration isn't incredible, but it is 30%, and of course if you hit them first, you can, do it even more. So if you land 2 hits on them, then suddenly it's a 42% slow for 2 to 4.4 seconds, which is substantial, and it is AoE. It's a 1200 AoE radius. So that is not too shabby. Anyways, that is my wake-up rundown for this morning. Going to close it up. If you haven't played Twitch in a while, might want to give it a try. He's a lot of fun in a lot of positions, and he can really affect the outcome of a game. Just don't get over-aggressive. Don't think you're always invisible, because they will, try to, spot you with pink wards, with oracles. Don't rely on that invisibility as the game goes later. Treat yourself as an AD carry as the game goes.